rating to B with a stable outlook. Now, since February 2013, Ghana's sovereign credit rating had been B+ with a negative outlook. The agency mentioned difficulty in managing the rising wage bill and increased GDP to debt ratio of 49.3% as reasons.
That it is unfair. They can make a comment about the level of the debt, but to go ahead to downgrade, because downgrade is a serious matter, because you are giving a signal to those people who will want to invest their debt capital, especially in government-related activities, that they ought to be extra careful. For you to make such a comment, your facts must be very, very, very correct.
My name is Brighton Anamfo. This is today's big story. Now, the agency had been closely monitoring the country's economy and had expressed concern over several factors affecting the health of Ghana's economy. Though government has put in place several measures to resolve the issues, including removal of subsidies, the Fitch agency says the issues remain significant enough to justify a lower sovereign rating. Government, however, is not happy with the rating. It says it does not significantly reflect Ghana's structural measures and deep reform efforts, notably in public financial management. Thanks so much for staying there. Now, one issue raised by the Fitch agency is managing the large government wage bill, which government says was a major reason behind last year's deficit and continues to limit fiscal flexibility. Now, let's hear what Deputy Finance Minister Kwaku Rekete-Egan had to say about the single spine pay policy.
We have only just about 600,000 or so workers in the public service. But we are spending about 70% of our tax revenue in paying this sort of a small group of people within a population of 24 million. And that is simply not sustainable. Normally, when we are negotiating salaries, we don't look at our fiscal situation. It is not surprising that we have various, organizations have gone and recruited people without any recourse to the Ministry of Finance. Therefore, people have been given jobs that we are not even aware of, or we haven't really made any proper provision to be able to pay this.
Right, so that is the bone of contention, the rising wage bill of the country. The chief executive of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has also been talking about the single spine pay policy. Let's listen once again.
We have now developed what we call the single spine pay policy, which will now tackle every single aspect of the policy. Its implementation, how it's supposed to be done, what are the policy measures that are supposed to be taken, and all that. These documents have been developed now and is before cabinet.
Right, so the single spine pay policy there in discussion there, but government is not too happy about what happened. At the daily briefing, it responded to the changing of Ghana's sovereign credit ratings to B with a stable outlook. Now, Felix Kwakye Ofosu is a minister, Deputy Minister Information and Media Relations.
Some of the information that has filtered through regarding that rating shows clearly that the issues that we have already begun addressing are of concern to these rating agencies. And indeed, if you go back to check some commentary that has been run by other rating agencies apart from Fitch, they all converge on the same points: the need to control the wage bill and also the need to manage our public debt in a manner that does not derail the gains that we've made so far. And I'm happy to know that these are matters that we've already started addressing. So whilst we appreciate commentary on our economy, and while we appreciate the efforts of these rating agencies to draw attention to them, we are already in the process of addressing them. And like President Mahama indicated yesterday, we are going to yield significant dividends in the near future from the measures that government itself has put in place.
Right, so government's response there. Now, government is trying to say that, look, we have put in measures to ensure that the economy is stabilized. Now, some of these measures, it says, include fiscal consolidation after last year's deficit as part of the necessary steps to address long-standing issues that have plagued Ghana's economy. It says it is also looking at Ghana's short to medium-term prospects, which it said remain strong. But a chartered economist and lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, John Kachi, is making some argument. Now, he says that the rating agency fails to take into account measures being taken by government to address the wage bill. He, however, said it was important for government to inform Ghanaians and the international community of how far its measures to tackle the huge wage bill has worked.
If you look at our rating, they have rated us from B+ to B. B is also largely considered to be the lower level of the investment grade, which implies that Ghana has the ability to repay its loan, and the outlook is still positive. Bearing in mind that the ongoing loan portfolio are being serviced continuously, there has not been any defaults. So the situation for me is not so alarming as we would like to take it. Institutions who have interest in Ghana will continue to lend to Ghana because there are many other factors that ought to be considered. I believe the major factor that the rating agency considers is the deficit and then the debt level. One begins to question whether the rating agency is actually very fair to Ghana in the rating that they come with. Also, at the backdrop that they themselves have indicated that the situation that Ghana is going through is a short-term situation and the long-term outlook is very positive. I think that it is unfair. They can make a comment about the level of the debt, but to go ahead to downgrade, because downgrade is a serious matter, because you are giving a signal to those people who will want to invest their debt capital, especially in government-related activities, that they ought to be extra careful. For you to make such a comment, your facts must be very correct. And the issue I'm raising is that you have a country that is servicing its debt correctly. You have a country whose debt portfolio is within the internationally acceptable debt sustainability ratio. You have a country whose GDP is well beyond the sub-Saharan African rate. You have a country whose revenue outlook is very positive. The only thing is that we are not able to collect to meet the expanding expenditure situation we have in the country. When you yourself indicated that the situation is only a short term, what we should do to manage the wage bill have been discussed over and over. I believe that the reason why these things have become very significant in their rating is that our government itself is not speaking the way they ought to speak about the wage bill. The wage bill is not a crime for the people of Ghana. It's a challenge that we are facing. And the Minister of Finance has come up with certain measures to mitigate against the threat of the wage bill. We are not speaking about the way those measures are working. We are not speaking about the success we have told so far. The only thing we have been talking about, both government, the opposition, the analysts in the country, the international community, is all sounding negative about the wage bill. But there are measures that have been put in place. Let the government begin to talk about how those measures are working or not. It is only then that one will have a fair ground to assess whether we are ready to overcome the situation or not. That is the reason why the Fitch rating could not come out with any measure that we have taken so far to inform them about their ratings.
And of course, government has also come out, as I told you earlier, with a lot of issues trying to answer to the downgrading. Now, it says that the statement that was released by government says that it recognizes that the largest issue that must be addressed is a wage bill, which was a major reason behind last year's deficit, and it continues to limit fiscal flexibility. Now, it says the implementation of the single span salary system has been necessary but difficult, while it has entailed higher than expected fiscal outlays. It is nearly complete and will form the basis for a more controlled wage bill in the future. The improvement in payroll systems and processes is part of the comprehensive public financial management reforms being implemented. I'll very soon be speaking to government officials to find out exactly what it means. And some argue that they have not actually tell the story either. But let me speak to the head of Gold Coast Securities Research Desk, Sammy Ampah, who's just joined this discussion. Sammy, thanks once more for your time.
Hello.
Samuel, thanks so much. You're reaching me via Skype.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Bright.
Right. Now, first of all, the issue here is that some argue that government is not made that noise about what it is doing to, for instance, contain the rising wage bill. It is not making too much noise about what it is doing to clean up public financial management, and perhaps that might have influenced the downgrading. How would you react to this first?
Thank you very much. I guess, I really do not understand that argument because if government is making a lot of effort, we'll see it in the, first of all, we'll see it in the Bank of Ghana's quarterly review statement. What we saw clearly tells us that the wage bill is high, and currently it is also having most projections in terms of our budget deficit not going at the projected rate. So clearly, I do not see that argument as in government is not making a lot of noise about the high wage bill. Government has been consistent on the fact that the increase in our wage bill is having a big toll on its current account.
Right.
So therefore, it is something that is public knowledge. And what we are looking for, basically, and I believe that Fitch might have been looking for, is how government is mitigating such a problem.
Samuel, the government, for instance, says that it is seeing improvement in payroll systems and processes, and it is part of a comprehensive public financial management system they are putting in place to ensure that the wage bill is managed. And it even saying that it wants to put the country at 10%, a level that is well accepted by ECOWAS. And it thinks that these should be able to keep Ghana's credit worthiness intact. Well, I'm having some challenges with Sammy Ampah's phone there, but he's the head of Gold Coast Securities. Let me continue telling you what government has been talking about. A statement that is sent out says that the gradual increase in Ghana's oil and gas production, that is significantly higher this year compared to 2012, and the value addition and diversification plan to boost agriculture in particular, as well as a vibrant and growing services sector, are so driving the projected annual growth, economic growth of 7 to 8% of over the medium term. It is in this regard that the government launched a 3-year fiscal consolidation plan to boost a very strong economic environment and outlook. It says that because of these challenges, Ghana's growth is expected to remain above a healthy 7% at end of 2013. Let me go back to Samuel Ampah. He's back this time via Skype. Now, Samuel, I was trying to say that government is talking about clean up the public financial management system, and that it says it's enough measure to control the rising wage bill.
Well, it could be an effort. I mean, that's a great effort in cleaning the payment, the payroll system, because we've had a lot of ghost names. I mean, recently, when you recall the agitation from the nursing, the nurses, and you recall that when government was ready to pay the backlog of salaries, realized that the total number that was presented had reduced. So it tells you that there is a huge backlog in terms of ghost names in government payrolls. And that is a great effort. If government is making that effort for clean the payroll system, I believe when government make these efforts.
Well, we had some difficulty there. Samuel Ampah is still there, but we'll be trying to get back to him to let him round up what he was telling us. But he is trying to argue that indeed government is making the efforts, but ghost names appear to be a hurdle government is yet to cross. Samuel, are you there?
I am back on the line.
Right. Samuel, thanks so much for staying there. We have some technical challenge there. But you were making a point and you went off briefly. Your point was that you think ghost names remain a major hurdle for government if it should be able to overcome the rising wage bill.
That was the point I was making. I was making emphasis to the point where the nurses' agitation was a clear evidence or clear example of how government might have been paying huge bills of money or huge bills to people that really did not exist in the public sector. So it is a clear indication that government's effort to clean the payroll system could yield some dividends and even bring down government expenditure to the barest minimum. That is a great feat.
What about the concerns that perhaps Fitch is not being fair to Ghana because there are several issues, several challenges that government is driving? Would you share that argument?
I would not say that Fitch is not really being fair to government. I mean, Fitch gave the clear indication in February that it is placing Ghana on the negative, and that could mean that it might downgrade Ghana's rating since February. They were looking at some proactive action government is taking to, first of all, reduce its deficit. Our fiscal strength is still not too strong as we speak. I mean, we are having challenges as a country. Right. I mean, in the country, we all acknowledge that we are having challenges, and government is making some effort. But however, it then will make you wonder how we got to this position. I mean, a lot more of this, how we got to this position, is where I guess Fitch is really not convinced about, because we've come to a time where Ghana was, at a higher GDP growth of about 14%, and we were expecting that, and I believe Fitch's point was that we're expecting that growth trajectories could continue, and then government could check its expenditure. However, that was not done. So Fitch might give really a clear indication that is what it's going to do. What we should have done as a country was to make Berg what the challenges we are facing and how we are going to solve them. You will recall that our donor partners came up also once within them, I think in the past few weeks, to question what brought us to this far. I mean, where we have some serious economic challenge. I guess a lot more transparency in some of the things and reporting of some of the things the government is doing could help it somehow to make our international partners and a company like Fitch to know exactly what government is doing.
Sammy, stay on the line for me. Let me cross over to the other line and speak to John Gachi. He's a chartered economist there, and he's also with the University of Cape Coast Business School. Now, John, thanks once again for your time. Now, you seem to suggest that Fitch perhaps has not been fair to Ghana, and you also think that even in the face of what has happened, our lenders will continue to lend us money. Why do you think like that?
Well, if you are downgraded, it does not mean that investors will not be interested in you. The risk is that they may do that at a higher cost to you.
Right.
So that is the reason why I'm saying that it does not mean that those who are interested in doing business related to debt capital with government will not do it. They will continue to do that. But if this is imbibed very well in their plans, then they will be calling for higher rates with government. And that means that government will have to take in those loans at a higher cost. So that is a risk to what has happened.
But you think that government though it's putting in a lot of measures. Government talks about the fact that it is working on the wage bill. It talks about the fact that it has a medium-term economic outlook remaining strong, targeting a 5 to 6% budget deficit in the near term while maintaining a 7 to 8% growth. Now, all these government is doing them, and yet Fitch has gone ahead to do this downgrading. Do you think that perhaps these issues are indeed not the solution to the challenges the economy is facing?
I think there are two things we need to consider. You cannot drive down deficit significantly within a short period of time, because that has other implications for the economy. So for you to expect that deficit will be driven down significantly within a short period of time is an attempt to put more pressure on the economy of Ghana. That is something that we all need to observe. Then the second one is that we will also recall that the Minister of Finance went to Parliament to outline certain measures to mitigate the effects of all these challenges that we are going through. It is not our expectation that from time to time we only hear about the negative issue that we all know about. What we want to be hearing from time to time is how the measures that have been outlined, how they have been coming out with good results or bad results. Then we know that we are tackling the problem that we are facing. But we are not be hearing much about how the measures that have been proffered by the minister are working. So if you are in a situation...
John, perhaps the measures are not working, so the minister has nothing to tell us.
Well, you can put that question to them. So that is, the economy is about managing information. So if you put in a mechanism to address the problem, you need to come to the people of Ghana from time to time to tell them how the measures are working. So if you keep quiet, and only after when a rating has been given against you, that you come out that we are doing your best, I do not think that that is the way we want to go. And that is the point I am making.
John, do you sincerely think that our downgrading is something we do not deserve?
See?
I'm asking, sincerely, do you think that we don't deserve the downgrading?
For me, I think that we need our attention about the debt profile and some other challenges have been made several times. We need to give a certain time frame to see how the measures work very well. And knowing how the rating agencies have been working over time, the challenges they themselves are facing to the extent that some people are calling for themselves to be downgraded. Anytime they come up with a statement like this, we also need to interrogate it very well to see whether they are very fair.
John, again,
in my opinion,
let me come in. John, I'm not rudely cutting in, but before these measures begin to yield results, do you sincerely think again that we deserve what we have been given?
I do not think that we deserve it at this point in time.
John, hold on. Hold the line. Let me speak to Samuel Ampa. He's still on the line, the head of Gold Coast Security Research. Sammy, you on the other line, what do you think? Government says it has put in measures, and these measures are expected to yield results. Now, do you think that we deserve the rating that we have now?
Clearly, I think that for some of the things, I read the press statement from government on the Fitch ratings downgrade. And I believe that if government, what I'm seeing in the press statement, the things that governments are doing to mitigate the challenges that we face now as an economy, I believe that then government have not been able to really trumpet exactly some of the things that is being spelled out here. I really do not agree with government for waiting all this while for these Fitch ratings to come out for us. So the implication is that we deserve what we have been given now. Clearly, the Fitch sent us a signal, and they stated on certain few points, certain few economic challenges that we are having, and their expectations clearly were not met. So therefore, they went ahead to downgrade.
Samuel, you are a researcher. I guess you can be more sincere with me. Do we deserve what we have now?
I don't think we deserve it. Honestly, I don't think we deserve it because efforts are being made. I mean, clearly, even the high utility government removing subsidies on utility tells you that government is pushing a lot more to really solve the high budget deficit that is incurred.
Right.
So it is an effort government is making, and I believe that should have rather sent a signal to Fitch to look again as to what effort government is making to mitigate this issue of higher budget deficit.
Right, Samuel, hold on. Let me go back to John and wrap up with John. I'll come back to you. Now, John, we're wrapping up this discussion. Of course, you have said that you do not agree we deserve this. Now, the measures outlined by government, can it take us there?
Hello?
John, I'm wrapping up the discussion with you. You told me earlier that really we don't deserve what we have. The measures outlined by government to fix the economy, can it take us there? We're wrapping up.
Well, my position is that the measures that have been taken cannot solve the problem within a very short period of time. In fact, if Fitch will be very fair to us, they should come out and tell us, on average, countries that are going through challenges like ours, how long does it take them to bring down their deficit significantly? Never be 8 months. So I think that all the approaches put in place, it will only have a medium-term reflection, not in 2013.
I've lost John Gachi. Samuel Lampa, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. Sorry, I had lost John Gachi there, but let's do the wrap up now. John thinks that the measures outlined by government in the statement it released after the Fitch rating downgraded our credit worthiness are not simply what it would take us to get there. How can we get there? Let's wrap up this discussion.
I mean, there are a lot more government needs to do. I certainly, looking at the first statement, disagree with government in the fact that government attention on oil and gas is a significant contribution, could be a significant contribution to our gradual increase in revenue. I do think that government is not paying too much attention to agriculture, and that is a big deficit. If government pays attention to agriculture, we will have some significant growth. I mean, if you look at the contributions from all the various sectors to our growth path, and you could see that agriculture is recording a negative growth. Industry is recording a negative growth. And now with the high the subsidies removed from utilities and petroleum, these sectors are going to go down. Government is investing over $15 billion in the next 5 years in the oil and gas sector. Government is paying less attention to the agri sector, So I believe that this could be what government is doing could be a short-term measure. However, we do not see that the current Fitch ratings could be a long spell. Definitely, some of the things that government might be doing within this period might bring us to a normal position.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Sami Ampa is the head of research, Gold Coast Securities. They're talking about Ghana's credit worthiness, sovereign credit being downgraded from B+ with a stable outlook to B with a negative outlook. We'll be getting more on this very particular issue later on in our subsequent bulletins. But that's how I'm wrapping up the first part of the show. When Marian joins me on the other segment, we'll be talking about utilities. I'm sure you're worried about how much your credit you buy for electricity is running on your meter. We'll talk about that on the second segment, the interactive segment. Thanks so much for staying here. I'm coming back in a moment with Marian. Please stay with us.